guys, my name is Emma Loggins. I am the editor-in-chief and owner of Fanbolt.com. I also run another site called Women's Business Daily, which focuses on female entrepreneurship. And my real job is the owner and creative director for Excite Creative Studios, which is a design agency that I started over a decade back that focuses on digital content creation and digital marketing.
Did your quote unquote real job in Fanbolt come about at around the same time?
Roughly. I honestly, the design agency, it's difficult for me to pinpoint exactly when I started it because it kind of just spun out of freelance work, and I'm a one woman LLC. So it just, I've been doing that for as long as I've been doing Fanbolt, which I actually started in 2002. So it's 15 years now. It's a teenager.
Well, what is it about the nerd and geek culture that drew you to it?
Well, I feel like I have kind of a quintessential high school tale of, being bullied and made fun of because, I was into sci-fi and, comics, and I definitely was striving to make the best grade I could in school. So I was kind of your textbook nerd. And I found really just escapism through, those genres where you can, leave your normal life and pretend to be in another world, another scenario for an hour or for a few hours if it's a film. And that's just what really sparked my love of that. And I also had a great love of technology, and being able to blend both of those together and start Fanbolt, it was just a way to be able to celebrate geekdom and fandom.
Was it a grind to get Fanbolt to where it is now, or did that come relatively easily?
It's been a lot of hard work. It's funny because when I started Fanbolt, blogging wasn't really something that anyone was talking about. Facebook wasn't a thing yet. MySpace, I think, started in 2003. Twitter wasn't around yet. So it was really before the time of social media and really in the height of like message board culture, which has kind of faded away a little bit with social media. But I had no idea what I was doing, honestly. I started a site because I was really passionate about fandom, and I had several satellite sites, that's what I called them, off of Fanbolt that were for like Everwood and the OC and Supernatural and Roswell and just kind of anything in that WB space, really, at the time in the early 2000s. And Fanbolt was more of a message board community. And then out of nowhere, I was getting so much traffic to the site, especially for my work with what I was doing with the OC. I had, just a fan site, but I kind of figured out in the early days of Google how to make the most of their algorithm, and my site was actually ranking above the official site for it, and I was getting slammed with traffic, and Warner Brothers saw that, and they were like, hey, how about you come be an independent contractor for us and do what you're doing there for us? And I had no idea it would lead to that, and I did that until the series ended. And then from there, really just made the most out of every opportunity I had, every publicist I met, every actor I interviewed, and then realized too that it wasn't really necessarily smart to focus on just one show or even, a number of shows, because shows will end. So I started just kind of transforming Fanbolt into just a general entertainment site, entertainment blog, which again was focused really on kind of geek genre, anything that fell in that, whether it was television, film, travel, geeky lifestyle stuff, anything that would be appealing to really me, since I was the one that was running it. And again, it was a lot of hard work, a lot of passion for tech, and a lot of luck. It was a combination of those three.
Do you feel that the genre journalists like ourselves are a little bit more qualified to report on the entertainment industry than entertainment writers?
No, definitely. I think what I've always said about genre writers is they're more passionate. It's more fun to read their content and read their interviews and watch the content that they're producing, because they're fans and they get it and they speak to the fan world. Whereas an entertainment writer, I feel like is, and granted, that's what journalism is supposed to be. It's supposed to be unbiased, but I don't necessarily want to read something unbiased. I want to, sure, if it's like world news, but if it's like entertainment, I want to be able to relate to someone and be able to geek out with them. And I think that's what genre writers do so well.
What was your favorite show or film to cover since you started running Fanbolt?
I've had so many really memorable experiences that it's almost just like a montage of them in my head at this moment. Uh, Obviously, the experience with Stranger Things and that set visit was pretty incredible. Um, Especially being able to do that before we even knew what the show was going to be and what it was really going to be about, and getting to meet the kids before the madness that then became their lives and their career.
Yeah.
That to me holds a special place in my heart, just because it was before everyone knew what it was. So that's pretty up there. Also, I mean, I travel with Walker Stalker Con and Heroes and Villains Fan Fest. So being able to be a consultant with them and help them on their stuff and do tech support for them and occasionally do interviews for them. I've gotten to know those cast members really well, and they're fantastic people, and it's just one big fan family. And so that too holds a special place in my heart. Really, honestly, I think it's moments of fandom that stick with me, and it's moments of seeing people meet actors and actresses that have really impacted their lives. I think those are the moments that really stick out probably the most to me. It's just so heartwarming and so sincere.
As far as I think Netflix is moving their production facilities back to California. Do you see that having a big impact on the film market in Georgia?
No, I think Marvel, to my understanding, is still pretty going strong here. Um, I, we've got great tax incentives. We've got 30% tax incentives. We've got some really great studio spaces, sound stages, and it's so much less crazy to film here and to live here than it is in LA. Granted, our traffic is slowly starting to try to compete with LA, but I think it's a different speed of life. And don't get me wrong, there definitely is a sort of magic to LA that, you can't deny. But I do think that there's something about just kind of enjoying life and nature out here that I think a lot of actors and producers and directors that come out here, a lot of crews really appreciate. And I also think the variety of what you have here in a relatively close proximity to the city. You have the city, you have the mountains, you have the farm, you have beaches that are just a couple hours away. So you have a lot of variety here, and I think it's a much more enjoyable pace of life than LA. So I don't think it's going to hurt us too much. We still have tons of production happening in the state.
I saw that you were flying into LA the day I was flying out. What were you in LA for? Because you arrived right when the fire started.
Yeah, you know what? It was a crazy experience. I'm a brand ambassador for Kia, and I've been working with them a little bit on the launch of the Stinger, their new sports sedan. And I was actually out there for an event with them and one of their partners, Harman Kardon, the speaker company, and we got to go and tour their facilities, which was just about 60 miles south of the really big fire. And it's crazy because being on the East Coast, you see footage of these fires on TV, but you don't really understand until you're there and you see the smoke. Like, we were so far away from the actual fires on that first day that I was there, but the smoke was still so heavy, and if you rolled down the window, like, there was ash that was like in the car. And that to me was just insane. You couldn't really get a good deep breath in without coughing because the smoke was so thick. And then on the day that I left, that newest fire had broken out not too far from Beverly Hills. And being able to see that as I went to the airport and then flew out, that was really scary. It's something that you just don't really understand by just seeing on the news or reading about it in a newspaper, but seeing it in person definitely it was scary.
And it feels like we have it a lot better on the East Coast. We may have hurricanes, but we never really have anything that's going to devour our entire state.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's just a type of natural disaster that you don't really think about. I mean, we don't really have to worry about earthquakes out here or, fires or hurricanes come through every now and then. But in Atlanta, I mean, Atlanta has kind of this, I don't know if it's like a pollution dome or what it is over the city, but even when storms come into the city, like they break apart in Atlanta. So we don't really have, aside from snowpocalypse, which, made us a little bit of a joke, but in our defense, we didn't have the snow equipment to handle it. So everything was frozen over and we had nothing to like de-ice it. But other than that, like we're really kind of in a good geographical location to protect us from a lot of nature's disasters.
For disclosure, because I totally forgot to mention this at the beginning, the way I know you is because you were on set with me with Stranger Things, and you provided me with the best pictures of what we were allowed to take pictures of. So just so everyone knows, that's how I know Emma.
Let me just say that like taking those photos, those D&D photos with the boys was probably one of the smartest things I've ever done, because having those photos and being like, yeah, here's us playing, Dungeons and Dragons with the kids of Stranger Things. Like everyone's like, holy cow, like that's amazing. And it's just such a good photo to have. I wish I had gotten pictures with all of the kids.
Yeah, we were really under lock and key with what we could do.
Yeah, it was just weird going into it because I mean, we didn't really have an understanding of what the show was, other than it was, kind of like a combination of like Stand By Me and Poltergeist and Goonies, and it's about these kids, and that's really almost all we knew about it.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was a interesting set visit to be on, just because it was kind of difficult to know what questions we could actually ask because we had no idea the premise of the show.
Yeah, and watching how their careers have really taken off, especially Millie, how their careers have just blown sky high. It's weird to watch them grow up so fast in just the span of a year.
I know, it's crazy. I was Millie's 34th Twitter follower. Now she's at like, I don't know, like 10 million Twitter followers or something. But it was just crazy because I remember when I followed all of them on Twitter and Instagram, and all of their numbers were in the double digits, and I remember saying like, this is going to change their lives overnight, especially after, because I think we got like the first 3 episodes maybe like a month and a half out or something, and then like a couple of weeks before we got all of them, and after I finished it I was like, dude, this is going to be huge. There's just no way it's not going to be. And it's always really interesting how Netflix approaches its launches of new shows, because I feel like it doesn't really promote them at all. Like they just drop and then you just see them on Netflix, or you hear about them from a friend that watched it and recommended it. And it's such an interesting tactic of marketing, but like literally they didn't have to spend really a dime marketing Stranger Things. Like it just word of mouth marketed it for them.
Yeah. And like they're doing, I think, the same thing with Altered Carbon, because Entertainment Weekly got the trailer exclusive, and then nothing else after that. I even had to contact them. I was like, "So can I publish my stories now, or what's going on?" Because I don't know. I'm sitting on 3 huge stories and like 10 interviews. Are we gonna wait till like a day before in February or what?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's their press approach is really interesting, but it works. So I mean, what can you do? It works well for them.
I'd like to see Netflix approach as far as filmmaking and series production expand into Hollywood because you and I have probably both been on a lot of sets, and the way Netflix approaches them is vastly different. Much more
Right,
open, much more creatively driven than numbers driven.
right. I mean, I really like that too because I feel like it's more authentic and it's less about kind of the industry of it. It's more about the fans and reaching the people that are going to really appreciate it. And it's even been a thing like even with like social media marketing, and I do a lot of influencer marketing, and it's kind of some of what I do with Kia as a brand ambassador. But there's a lot of companies that will come to people with Instagram and Twitter accounts, and they want a certain number of followers, and in general you would think, oh well, the more followers the better. That's not necessarily true. It's obviously having at least a somewhat good number of followers, but more importantly having engagement and good quality engagement and having a conversation and having people engage with that content. And I think that's what Netflix's approach does really well. They're looking at people, sites that really have a specific connection to the genre of the show that they're working with, and they're reaching fans that are a little bit more hardcore and dedicated, more so than just like the general movie or TV watcher.
Mm-hmm. Um, the only bad thing I see is they might be stretching themselves a bit thin, but then again, it's hard to tell. It's such a new medium of distribution for for these kind of high concept things that I just don't know if it's good or bad. But I'm hoping that everything just turns out really well because I'd hate to see artists, writers, actors not get a chance at creating what they love because there's no longer an outlet there. So I'm hoping Netflix stays around a good long time.
No, I totally agree. I think, and I have similar concerns there with as you do. Looking at a show like Sense8, for example, who somehow spent 12 to 13 million dollars an episode. I'm not like sure how their budget was what it was. But then of course it being canceled, but then being brought back again for this little kind of limited run they're going to do. It's kind of crazy the amount of money that they will put into a show and the amount of freedom that they'll give a creative team to come in and do something. But that's what's really exciting because I feel like in network television, what you have is they want like show A plus show B. They want like Big Bang Theory meets Walking Dead, or they want you to drop two names of two successful shows and a proven formula that works for this new show. And it's literally just so formulaic. It's been done before, but it's been done before successfully, so they feel like it's safe.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not where you get good entertainment. You get good entertainment from people that are trying to do something new.
Yeah. I think we're going to see if that concept holds true when Altered Carbon comes out, because though I can't say a whole lot because I'm still under NDA for that, but the level of hardcore sci-fi that's going to appeal to, it's got to hit that market right to get everyone in there, because you've got to be a very dedicated fan of either the novel or sci-fi in general to get hooked by it. Because it's so hard to describe because I can't give anything away, but wow, the production value on that thing. We walked into one set that spanned, I don't know, about 500 feet by about 50 feet tall, and just on that set, I was like, wow, there's just no way anyone can look at this and not go, this is the best sci-fi that I've seen in years.
Yeah.
But
no, totally.
It's just marketing it because that's just one of those things that like you said, their marketing is so strange. I don't know how you successfully market that. Even I can't think of a way to say, do you like hardcore sci-fi? Here's what you should watch.
Well, I also think it's kind of interesting too from like the show's perspective, because you lose the ability to really kind of make a better deal for yourself going into future seasons, because Netflix doesn't make any of their numbers, public.
Mm-hmm.
So it's difficult for you to be like, well, my show brought you this many new viewers and it had, these ratings for each episode, or whatever it may be. But in exchange for that, not being able to, make those kind of deals, you do have that creative freedom. So it's, pros and cons of both worlds, but it's they're killing it right now. And the only thing that kind of really concerns me, besides some of the amount of money that they're spending on some of these series, which seems like just a lot of money, but also other companies that are getting into this space with Disney and their new platform, and they're going to be pulling a bunch of their titles from Netflix, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And Disney basically owns the world at this point, between Star Wars and Marvel and like all of their other movies. So it's going to be interesting to see, kind of dividing up this space, which everything kind of becomes more a la carte, which in a way is nice if you don't want all the other stuff. But then I think that almost kills the ability for these new amazing shows to have the amount of creativity and freedom that, Netflix is allowing them to have.
The Disney thing does concern me, especially. I don't know if they fully acquired 20th Century Fox yet or not, but a Disney streaming service, now that they own Marvel and Lucasfilm and 20th Century Fox, it's just, that's so much content right there just in the Disney brand alone that you could nearly just wipe out most of your competition. Especially if they start streaming ABC shows and whatever their new channel is that took over the Family Network. I can't remember what.
Freeform.
Freeform, yeah, that's it. Might not be the best content, but there's an audience for it if you can keep that channel afloat for so many years.
Oh, definitely. And I do think that's what Netflix is being smart by creating their own original programming, because if Disney does manage to really get a solid blow to Netflix by, pulling so much of its content from them, then at least you're not going to give up your Stranger Things. You're not going to, give up all of your other original I found so many shows that I love on Netflix, and so they have me. As long as they have Stranger Things, they will forever have me. So I think that they're definitely being smart about it in that regard.
Yeah. I've noticed on a lot of your social media posts you have a hashtag for Boss Lady.
Yeah.
Could you tell me more about that?
Sure. Yeah, Boss Lady, Lady Boss, Girl Boss, Boss Girl, any of those combinations thereof. I feel like at my core, I am very much a serial entrepreneur. I love starting brands. I love coming up with, the branding, the messaging, the site design. I went to art school and for web design, specifically for multimedia design and web design, and then taught myself web development on the side. And it's something that I'm just incredibly passionate about. And so Fanbolt and Women's Business Daily really focuses on the whole kind of lady boss lifestyle, encouraging young, really female millennials to just go for their dreams and start their own business. And, the time is going to pass anyway, so go ahead and do it now. So that's very near and dear to my heart, but it's even something, as I was telling you earlier before we started the interview, like I've got an app that's going to be coming out next year too. And then I have a couple of other ideas I want to pursue beyond that. So it's just being a serial entrepreneur at heart. And that to me is so much fun. So when people are like, well, what do you do for fun? And I'm like, look, this is fun. Like, I love getting to see movies early and getting to see TV series early and getting to go to these sets and, getting to drive these cars before they're released and, getting to go to film locations in Scotland and Ireland and see where all of this stuff is made. There's so many really unique life experiences that I've had because I've taken this weird, blogger life track that I just otherwise I wouldn't have had, and that to me is so worth it. So yeah, Boss Lady is just all about pursuing your dreams and starting businesses.
How do you keep that momentum going for all your ventures? Is there like a certain thing that drives you, that just keeps pounding away at it?
I'm a big believer in like just putting it out there. I think this sounds kind of hippie, and I don't mean it to sound hippie, but I'm a big believer in positive energy. And if you really believe in something and you put in the time and the effort and the heart, that you will make that happen for yourself. So I think kind of having, a vision of what I want to have and what I want to create, that's what keeps me going and keeps me motivated and driven. Plus, there's also like I think it's probably like an OCD side to my personality, where there's nothing I love more than like crossing things off of a list. So if you give me a list, like crossing things off of it is like legit fun to me. So I think also having everything on my list crossed off, that motivates me for sure.
For people that are looking to do what we do, what is your advice to them?
Um, my advice to them would be, focus on creating content around something you're really, really passionate about. Don't start with uh, doing something that you're doing just because you think that there's money in it, because it's so long before you see any kind of success, and success probably won't look like what you think it will look like.
Hmm.
So I think just being passionate about it, that keeps you going. If you're doing something that doesn't feel like work, then you're going to keep doing it despite the fact that there may not be any immediate returns, or maybe any returns in the near future, but it's something you're really passionate about. And that authenticity and being that sincere with what you're putting out, people will relate to it and they will read it, and you will slowly work on building that following for yourself. But you've got to be willing to put yourself out there, to develop relationships and connections with people and start that engagement. Go out and look for it, have those conversations, get involved in the fandom community, and start trying to go to screenings, even if it's just trying to win passes to screenings to see movies early. Do that, reach out to some people that are doing what you want to do in your area and ask if you can help. That's always a great way to kind of get your foot in the door and make some good relationships and good connections. But I think bottom line, it's just make sure that you're